Okay, kiddies. Who's ready for some more Quincy fairy tales with Tekking and Froki? Oh, Alanis and Alejandro, you adorable scamps. Alright. Okay, this one is called Our Quincy God and Kaiser Almighty with infinite knowledge that will take your power and memories upon your death and purge your mixed blood brethren. Oh look, introduction by Heinrich Himmler. Alright, so chapter 1. Hello everybody, Tekking101 here to review Bleach chapter number 565, entitled God Like You. Blasphemy! Maybe, kinda, sorta. Alright, so instead of jumping directly into the chapter, like, you know, what's going on the first page, let me just state right now that this chapter does not have the same structure as the other ones did, because we just came off from a big epic final showdown between Renji and Master Masculine, and now this is one of the more exposition-heavy chapters that Kubo likes to throw in after the main battle, you know, like main battle, a little bit of exposition to advance the plot, main battle, a little bit of exposition to advance the plot. So, this one, though, kind of really starts off like a fairy tale, or like some kind of story from the Quincy lore, you know, from the Quincy book that I guess Juha was talking to with Uryu about. Remember back in, I think, chapter 546, at the very end, you know, Uryu and Juha were standing on the palace right after he summoned the Vandente, and he was reiterating, like, that story of that Kaiser, that after, you know, 900 years would regain his body, 90 years regain his knowledge, 9 days would, and 9 days would conquer the world. And I think this really seems like the beginning of this story, or a sense of the way it's set up. So the chapter opens with, it's all in silhouette, so all the people are like blacked out, like in a storybook essentially. But it stated that there was this baby that was born, and it was blind, deaf, it couldn't move, it couldn't really do anything. And despite the fact that it lacked all the faculties for life, and it basically by all respects should have been dead, it still survived. And even when it was an infant, this baby still had some type of sentience or knowledge in the fact that it knows it won't die, even though it was just an infant. It still was aware of this fact. So the baby, though, was actually kind of treated like a treasure to all the people that touched it, because whoever touched this baby were healed of all their ailments. Not just physical ailments, like, you know, if they had wounds, they would be healed. It says that if they were missing limbs, the limbs would be eventually brought back to them. But also simple stuff like broken hearts, or those that lacked courage, those that were cowards were suddenly found very courageous. And it was something that just seemed like a miracle. Essentially, like, this baby was a miracle. Whoever touched it had pretty much everything in their life fixed. Stuff that couldn't be handled with one soul was fixed by 2 souls, because this baby had a very unique special ability that these people probably weren't aware of at the time. They were probably just aware of it being a miracle. And the fact of the matter was, though, this baby could separate its soul. It could divide its soul and send it into other people. So problems in your body that couldn't be fixed by just one soul, like lung damage, could be repaired with 2 souls, or this soul from this baby. So, basically, he's treated like a miracle. So, you know, I can imagine, like, people from all around the world were coming into contact with this baby and, you know, touching him and accessing their power. So there's probably a lot of people that were touching this baby. Okay, that sounded really effed up. I'm just going to continue. So we flash forward a little bit. We find out that there's a major drawback to this power, though. We find out that all the people that gained this power from this baby and, you know, had all their problems in their lives fixed, had all their wounds healed, had all their mental problems overcome, they didn't last very long. In some cases, they only lasted a couple days after they accessed the power from this infant. But even despite the fact people still kept showing up, because it's just like, you know, I mean, I can kind of understand why they kept going, even though they know, you know, like, there's a curse here as well as a miracle, because you'll have your, you know, like, if, like, you're missing an arm, you'll have your arm healed, but you could die, you know, basically the next day, if that's how the curse works. But I guess people would still be understood, because it's just like, well, my life is miserable anyway, so at least here I have a chance. So I can understand why people would still access this power. But what really is going on here is that after those people die, the power, not only the power that the baby gave to them to begin with, not only the piece of the soul that it gave to them, but also that individual soul that had their problems healed, as well as all their knowledge, all their memories, and basically all their special abilities that they had will go back into the infant after they die. So it's basically like, you know, like a pawn service for the soul, essentially. Like, I'll give you my soul to get you through this troubled time, but after you die, I get all your shit. So, after these individuals die and the power goes back into the baby slowly began to heal. It could slowly begin to hear and to see and to move. And once it was able to hear, the baby started to notice that everybody was calling him a certain thing, and that was Juha. Yes, the baby was in fact Juha Bach, who I'm sure had a very active love life in his teenage years by going by this headshot. Alright, so I feel like I need to stop right there to just catch up on the major revelation that we just got here. So, Juha, we don't know what his complete ability is, but given by the fact of what we've seen from this fairy tale, Juha Bach is able to portion out parts of his soul into individuals, and then after they die, they come back to him. So, with that in mind, we cut back to Juha Bach, who's sitting in his chair, and he's kind of snoozing, his eyes are shut, and he notices that Maste Masculine is dead, and he states that, did James die? And I'm not sure if, you know, somebody is replying to him here and confirming it, or if he's just looking into it himself, but he says, did James die? You can come back to me. Well done. And then we see an image of all the power that Maste Masculine and James apparently had flowing back into Juha Bach. Now, the fact that he said, did James die, might hint to the fact, like, some people might have been thinking, like, I thought about this a little bit too, like, wait, why is he so more concerned about James rather than Maste Masculine? Maste Masculine was the Sternritter, so why is he more concerned about James? Maybe James was the main, you know, antagonist there. I don't really see it like that. I thought of that a little bit, but then I figured, well, he's probably more concerned by the fact that if James is dead, then that means Mask is not going to come back, or there's no way he's going to come back after it. So maybe that's why he's asking, did James die? Okay, James is gone. All right, well, Mask is gone. So then he starts to absorb the power back into him. So if you have to think for a second, if Juha actually portioned out part of his soul to all the members of the Sternritter, then not just Maste Masculine, but, you know, maybe BG9 and Kangdu and all the other Sternritters that died, the power would flow back into him as well. Now, I don't think this is a really big issue when you consider that the amount of Sternritters that died are just... Oh, fuck. Okay. So they're not really dead if you really think about it. In fact, their powers still live on within Juha, as well as a power boost themselves from after they died. Huh. You know what? This is actually a good thing, because you know what this finally kind of gives us? A backstory where the fucking Sternritters came from! I was always curious about this, you know, like, where did they come from? Were they just hanging out in that shadow dimension the entire time? Were they around, you know, 1,000 years ago when Juha was around, when he got defeated by Yamamotto? Where did these guys come from, like Bambietta and Kangdu and Basby? This finally makes sense. I'm going to try to piece this all together right now. We might get a different explanation later in the future, but here's my answer to this question where the Sternritters came from. So, we have Juha's selection that he made, the screening that he made of all the Quincies, his holy choosing of the Quincies that would live and the Quincies that would die and make up his power. That happened 9 years ago. So, let's say he killed off all the mixed blood Quincies, like he killed Katagiri and he killed Masaki. Alright. All the Quincies that he did not kill, the ones that he chose as his holy selection, were the ones that were still around, the pure blood Quincies, which are the Sternritter. But at that time, they were just normal Quincies. Maybe they weren't even aware they were Quincies. Maybe they were just like subconsciously, they had it in their genes and they didn't even know they were Quincies. So Juha rallies all these Quincies together, forms the Sternritter, like the Sternritter as we know right now, the Kangdu and Basby and BG9 and well, we don't know about BG9. I'm going to leave BG9 out there because BG9 still, we don't know where the hell he came from, but you know, like Bambietta and you know, Jerome and Driscoll and all those guys. He got them all together, who were just normal Quincies at that time, and then divided out part of his power in a manner we're going to get to later in the chapter, and boom! Sternritter army is created. Alright, I think that makes a lot of sense, and that also adds to kind of like a brainwashing circuit here, where they literally have part of Juha Bach's soul in them, so they really can't disobey orders. This would explain why all the Quincies are just unfathomably just loyal to Juha Bach and just will listen to his every command. You know, they're not like Eisen, where like Tia Hallibell and someone like Barargan were just going along with Eisen just because he was strong. You know, all the Sternritters seem actually loyal and willing to die for this dude. You know, when Royd died, he died with a smile on his face just because he died at the hands of Juha Bach. So it's really kind of a symbolistic there, of, you know, how much they are dedicated to this dude, and now it makes more sense considering the fact they may have part of the soul in him. Alright, so, after he absorbs Maste Masculine's power, we cut back over to another section of the Vondenreich Palace, where we see Uryu walking down an empty hallway, and there's no dialogue here, so I'm just going to fill it in myself. Oh, God. freaking place so empty. Why is this place so huge? There's not even a freaking arcade room. I'm gonna talk to Juha Bach here, maybe get some Tetris up in this bitch. What's the matter? Oh, great, it's this guy again. Haschwalth is there, and he's just kind of standing outside Juha's throne room, kind of guarding it, and he states to Uryu that currently Juha is asleep, and it is only when he is asleep that he's the true father of the Quincies once again, and he stores his power, hence why he was storing Master Masculine's power. Actually, maybe now that I think about it, maybe he was, like, sleep-talking to himself. Maybe he wasn't actually awake when he was saying, oh, did James die? Maybe he was just, you know, sleep-talking, because later in the chapter, we're actually going to see him waking up. So, Haschwalth states that no one is allowed to disturb him while he sleeps, and he says that you can tell me whatever you were going to tell him. Uryu just looks at him like, why the hell? I have business with Juha. Why the hell would I tell you? And in fact, your personality seems to have shifted a little bit since the daytime as well. And Haschwalth goes on to say that, yes, actually, he is going to be the leader of the Quincies, or the mask of the ruler, while Juha is asleep and becomes the father of the Quincies again. I don't know if we're doing some, like, split personality deal where it turns out that, like, Haschwalth is going to be, like, the ruler, because he says that me and the Majesty are the two sides of the same scale here, which goes along with, you know, Haschwalth's power, which would be the balance, or at least we can assume it would be the balance. You know, I always assumed Juha, the letter A, my assumption what that always meant was the absolute, because the balance and the absolute, that kind of just seems to go in a conjunction there. But, you know, the way we look at it here, they're tied together in some manner. I mean, he goes on to say that, no, not just me and him, but all the Quincies are connected through Juha Bach. But the way he said it the first time, like, me and His Majesty are like both sides of the same coin, it's very clear that Haschwalth's connection to Juha is much more adamant, or much more, can be elaborated upon more than just his standard connection, like, with Ichigo, whereas Ichigo just has, like, a part of Juha in his soul. You know, Haschwalth clearly has something more going on. But basically, while he sleeps, I guess Haschwalth gains the power of the ruler. Maybe it's like the personality shifts over. Like, the personality that Juha had during the day goes to Haschwalth during the night, and they flip. And maybe now Juha, while he sleeps, is much more like Haschwalth is much more kind and kind of quiet. Not, I shouldn't say kind, because he split a guy in half. But, you know, much more quiet, much more reserved and soft-spoken, kind of. I guess I should go with that. So Haschwalth begins to elaborate more to Uryu exactly what it means to be connected to Juha, and what it means that Uryu is actually going to be his next successor. We get the title page, Bleach 565, God Like You, and then we get the truth about the king. We get a little bit more elaborated upon about how the power works, about how Juha divides his soul to other beings. If it used to be like whoever just touched Juha, he can give him part of his soul, but he later discovered that he actually can give him more power, or the person more specific power, if he engraves the initial of that power into the person. So, I mean, if we're gonna, like, for example, you know, we see an image here of a bee, so that would imply maybe Juha literally engraved a bee into Haschwalth's soul, bestowing Juha power of the balance over to Haschwalth. I'm just using balance here because we still don't know what the bee means, but I'm just gonna say balance because it's probably fucking balance. So, if you look at it that way, like, Juha actually has all 26 powers of the Sternritters in himself, and he just, like, lending them out to the other Sternritters to kind of, you know, kind of like, you know, bestow them with the power, and also, he gets more back at the end of the deal when they die, because when they die, not only will he get his power back, like, you know, like, okay, who's a Sternritter we know is dead? A Sternritter that we know is dead is, you know, at the moment, Driscoll Birchie. Okay, he got nuked by Yamamotto, so he's definitely gone. He was bestowed with the power of the overkill. So, Juha had the power of the overkill, gives it to Driscoll. Driscoll got nuked by Yamamotto. Not only is Juha going to get the overkill power back, but he's also going to get a power boost of all the knowledge and all the abilities that Driscoll gained since he gave him that power throughout all of Driscoll's life. So, that makes a lot of sense when you really think about it. Exactly where all these powers are coming from would just be directly from Juha engraving the initials on their soul. Haschwalth also explains the whole ceremony or ritual that Uryu undertook whenever he sipped that sake cup filled with, I guess it was blood or something. That was Juha actually engraving the letter A into Uryu's soul. Uryu seems a little bit shocked by this, considering the fact, like, you know, oh, like, crap, that's what I drank? I didn't even know that. I mean, dude, I don't know why Uryu's here. I mean, I'm not even going into that speculation again. But whatever the reason Uryu's here, you had to figure, like, okay, the Quincy's Kaiser Dark Leader Christ figure is bringing me into his back room to sip a sake cup filled with some god-knows liquid. Oh my god, there was something bad that happened after that? I'm so shocked by this. So, Haschwalth kind of like catches on to him and he says that, I don't know why you're here. You might be here to think you might try to avenge your mother's death. But as soon as you came here, as soon as you sipped that liquid, you were stuck. Because now part of His Majesty is in your soul. And as soon as you die now, your entire soul, all your powers are going to go right back into Juha, His Majesty. Uryu becomes, like, really shocked by this, because I think he finally catches on, like, there's no way the Shinigami can win. Maybe that's what he's thinking. I don't know if he's truly on the side of the Shinigami, if he's still on Ichigo's side, because there really isn't, because if the powers just go back to Juha, Yuha's going to be even stronger, and if he wanted to, I mean, I guess he's strong enough on his own, but if he really wanted to, he could just pop their power right back into another Quincy. So it's not like the powers by the Sternritters are being defeated. The vessel can be destroyed, but the powers cannot. I guess it was a good way to explain that. Of course, this also means, I mean, obviously, that Ichigo, too, I mean, this is a big issue with him, because if Ichigo were to happen to die, then the power of all of Ichigo's abilities, I guess, would go into Juha. I mean, I don't know if that's going to go into huge plot points relevancy right at the moment, because we did get like a screen of Ichigo when Haschwalth was talking about all the Quincies. Ichigo was included in that screen capture, so he might involve in that later on, but I don't think that's going to, you know, play a part in the later story. I think that's just Kubo saying, like, hey, he said all Quincies that have Juha in them, and that includes Ichigo, so just putting that in your head at the moment, just tuck that in the back of your mind for later on. Haschwalth's final, like, speech to Uryu about this is, no matter who dies in this battle, every time someone dies, Juha just gets stronger and stronger and stronger, and in fact, if he doesn't keep absorbing souls, he will be able to, he'll go back, he'll regress to the way he was when he was first born as an infant, or we don't even know if he was born. I mean, Juha is kind of outside the laws of reality at the moment, like, he's basically the Christ figure of the Quincies, so for all we know, Immaculate Conception, he just showed up in some shrubbery one day, we don't freaking know, or he was born under the stark moonlight, or I don't know. Look up some creation myths. Anyway, so unless Juha keeps absorbing souls, he's gonna regress back into his baby form. Maybe that's like a hint of how they're eventually gonna beat him, or eventually how Juha is gonna die. But I don't see that going anywhere anytime soon, because we don't get a time frame of like how long he has to go without a soul where he's gonna regress back into this state. I would assume this is the hibernation state he went into 900 years ago, how he lost his body, his knowledge, and his power, and his reasoning abilities. Maybe something happened back then with his fight against Yamamotto, where he couldn't absorb souls and he regressed back into that form, and then he was revived through another unexplained method, you know, through the last 1,000 years. So, I mean, in this regard, I'm just going to say that if this is going to play a plot point later on, like if this is how Juha is going to be defeated, the dude could come back again. I mean, if this is how Yama did it 1,000 years ago, the dude could still come back, provided they figure out some other way to kill him this time, which is yet to be explained. But, yeah, so it states that nobody can escape it. His power's basically absolute. You know, I can't escape it, you can't escape it, Uryu. We're basically all fucked at the end of the day. So last scene of the chapter, we have the sunrise over the Seirete, which I guess that would imply now it's only 8 days until the end of the world. So keep track, ladies and gentlemen. We have Juha waking up from his slumber finally, and he states to the sunrise that let's thank the souls of the ones who died. I can still see the world clearly. This is also probably like another ritual, I would assume. Like every time he sleeps and every time he wakes up, he like thanks the world I can still see. So maybe when he eventually wakes up, he won't be able to see anymore. That's when, you know, he's basically fucked. I don't know. Alright, so that's the end of the chapter. Like I said, we got a lot of freaking plot exposition explosion in this one. Just involving not only the Sternritter's possible origin, but also Juha's origin. I know there's more to this story, because this is just the story about how his powers came into revelation when he was younger. We still don't know exactly what time period this was, how Juha came into existence, you know, or when did Juha decide, like, I'm just going to become king of the world, or basically, like, when did he discover this ideals? Because this is always an idea, you know, like, is evil just ingrained in you, or is evil learned later on in life? Maybe this is how the original Quincies were created, like, maybe Juha eventually, like, portioned out his soul once he figured this out. He created the race of the Quincies in this manner. There's just way more questions here, and we've scratched upon the surface, and I really like this chapter. I really like the way Kubo set everything up here. And it was much appreciated, since, you know, the last maybe 10 chapters or so were just, you know, non-stop brawling and fighting, and this is like the first chapter we get, or we get like we settle down, we finally start to understand who this guy is, who Juha is. I can tell you something right now, Juha compared to Aizen's backstory, oh my god, Aizen sucks, because Aizen was just like, we got little of Aizen. We didn't see what he was when he was a child. We got like, well, maybe we got like one panel on him as a child. But basically, Ichigo just hinted at he was really strong and there was nobody else as strong, so he felt really lonely. That doesn't really apply very much all the crap and all the dastardly shit that Aizen did later in life. With Juha, he did some messed up shit. but at the same time, we now get a little bit more insight of what his origin story was and how he became, you know, what he was today, and I hope he elaborates on this more in later chapters. Alright, honestly, I think I've covered everything in this one. You know, going along, I did like kind of a play-by-play thing, so there's really not much to add in this case. Next chapter, I mean, I don't see them continuing on with this story. I think, you know, Kubo gave us a little bit, you know, like, I gave us enough for now. I think we're just going to cut back maybe to some other Shinigami, but any chapter where we get a lot of the Vandenreich over the Shinigami is usually much appreciated now, because there's still much more about this phantom organization, the Vandenreich, that we really don't know about. So, hope you enjoyed the chapter review. This is Tekking101, this is Froki, and, yeah, so, I will close with another Quincy fairy tale. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. The origin of the Seele Schneider. Oh my god, that's a lot of blood sacrifice. Hey everybody, more casually dressed yet still very dapper Tekking here, just letting you know that if you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button below, because it would be really awesome of you to do that. Also, I have some other videos that you might like. I did a crossover battle between Def the Kid and Coyote Stark from Bleach, which you're clearly a fan of if you watch this video. That can be found, over here, in this general direction, as well as a link to my Pokemon LPs that I've been doing. I am currently back into doing my full LP of Pokemon White, so after some hiatus, so go and check that out. And my vlog channel can also be found over in that location as well to see all the stuff that I do while I'm not on the Tekking101 channel. Why wouldn't you want to see that? Go check it out. Thanks, guys.